All right, we are live. Welcome to today's amazing episode of the Alpha Leadership Live Show, where I am joined today by one of the most epic and amazing people that I know, who it just made sense to bring her in to talk about today's topic, the one shift for epic boundaries. So we are talking all things badass boundaries. And of course, what is that one shift? So that's the juicy thing we will be getting into today. But before we hop over to the amazing Jess, and of course, setting up the rest of my technical stuff. But, hey, that's the joys of running a bazillion things at once. I will introduce myself as per usual. For those of you who are new to my world, I am Stacey Rasky, best-selling author, speaker, Iraq War veteran, badass biker chick, and most importantly, soulful success coach for alpha women leaders. I help visionary, ambitious women founders and CEOs shift from intimidating to influential leaders so they can shatter the invisible ceiling and elevate their visibility, authenticity, impact, and empire. So, enough about me, because I'm so excited to have a guest as Jess Branas with me today. She is phenomenal. And, I have been on her podcast twice now, so it only made sense to bring her on and have this amazing, amazing conversation. So Jess, please take it away and introduce yourself. Tell us about all your amazing endeavors that you are doing right now, because a lot is happening in your world.
It always is, Stacey, and I want to thank you for having me on and putting me in the hot seat this time instead of the other way around. Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day, but my name is Jess Branas, as Stacey said. I'm the host of the Drinks With Jess Podcast. We have just started our 7th year running the show. I'm also a 2-time best-selling author in the area of expertise of dating and relationships for the LGBT community. I also run my own podcast production company, which also goes into audiobook publishing as well as virtual event production, and the Be the Voice Podcast Network. I formed that almost exactly a little over a year ago. So we have several shows. I'm the executive producer of all those shows, and just keep rolling, and I don't sleep. And that's pretty much it.
Exactly. Who's got time for that?
Not me.
No, but that is such a beautiful highlight, because you have so many things that you're doing and you're successful in so many different things. You've got your passions, you've got your puppy, your amazing dog.
My big 91-pound puppy. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Good old Nacho. Mm-hmm. You've got so many different things that you're focusing on. Of course, in order to be able to balance that in a healthy and productive way, you have got to have some epic badass boundaries.
I do.
Yes, exactly. And of course, you're one of the most, like I said, one of the most amazing alpha women that I know, because you do have that balance, because you do have these boundaries to be able to just navigate all the things. But I know, like all of us who have our stories, that was not always the case. So before we get into the juicy of what the shift was or is for those who are listening, let's talk about what that would look like if your previous boundaries were trying to navigate all the things now.
You know what? I very rarely had boundaries in the past. Now I'm going to be 44 years old. So, I mean, I'm talking like even my teens and my 20s, because I always had this entertainment vibe. So my whole presence and my whole function in my mind was to be likable. Which means I didn't have many boundaries at all. And I am still the type of person who either breaks the rules or bends them to the point where they almost break, because I just can't help myself. That is just my natural badassery that is going to happen. But I have learned over the years that you can't just be a yes person. And I learned this especially when I was studying things like human behavior and starting to write my 2 books, because it was after a failing relationship, a long-term relationship, that I kind of had to reevaluate myself. And I was still young at the time. I mean, I was, I think 31 maybe at the time, where I finally decided to kind of delve into that aspect. And I took quite a few years to figure out what really allowed you to grow and evolve and kind of have that happiness in everyday life. So it is hard to balance when you have several things, but you can bring it down to like 3 key points, which sometimes is still a little hard. Nacho breaks my boundaries all the time.
Isn't that what pets are for?
Yeah. You just look at his face and you can't say no to him. That is when I still become a yes person.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I think that is so, so important because so many people struggle with that people pleasing, especially when I was the same way. I loved making people laugh. I loved, and I will fully own, I didn't care if they were laughing at me or with me. Like it was just one of those things that the joy was seeing other people in their joy.
Right.
But what was behind that mask was this need for people to people please because I really deeply feared rejection. And so it was just always focusing on other people and like, how can I get them to like me?
Yeah. I think I've come to the point now, I mean, especially with doing the show, like that's kind of where I get my likability factor. I've built the show, I've built the network, I've built several shows, and my audience still continues to grow. And I think because I have that reinforcement, I'm not worried about being so likable everywhere else. I was a teacher for 17 years. I was very likable to the kids. I was not likable to the administration. And so you kind of have to play around with it and get to the point where you are confident enough and have, which boundaries allow you to have, that self-esteem where you can just relax and be yourself. And it's not going to matter how other people react because you can't change their reactions.
Absolutely. And it really is about focusing on what you have control over, which is just you. Stepping into that place of building such a great relationship with yourself that you truly become unconditional. Because it doesn't matter what those conditions are around you. If you're an advocate then for the students and you're there to challenge the administration, you do it because it's what is in integrity with yourself. So what was the big shift for you then in really recognizing that root need to shift your relationship with yourself?
I think first it came with age. Obviously it came with a health situation that had come up when I was 35, because once I had thyroid cancer. So once I came out of my surgery, I mean, I remember waking up from anesthesia and saying, that's it. I am no longer living my life for other people. I'm going to, and it was as soon as I had my eyes open when I was in the post-op room that this hit me. And that was it. And it's been like full steam ahead. And I was 35 at the time. So it's been almost 10 years. So I think that was a big shift. But the one thing that I could tell everybody, and I don't know if some people have come to this conclusion, I know that you've heard me say this before, but we have to kind of change the way we see boundaries. Most people say, oh, I'm setting up these boundaries and I want everybody to follow them, because they're my rules. But you have to decide and you have to understand that when you set up a boundary, that's actually for you to follow. Since you can't change what other people do, you can't change what other people say, you have to follow your own boundaries. So if there is, for example, we're talking women in business here. If you have a boundary that you don't start your workday till 9 o'clock in the morning, then don't take that call at 8:30 in the morning. We do have people who for some reason think that we are there 24/7, and that is an impossible feat. Everybody has to keep that boundary, which means you have to be the one to put your phone away until that time that you sit at your desk. When it comes to relationships, same thing. If you have somebody who's trying to kind of pull you away from family and that family's important to you, then, that's that boundary. And you have to make sure you say, no, I'm spending time with my family, not with you today. So we have to actually follow our own rules that we set for ourselves.
Oh, thank you so much. You said that so eloquently. And I mean, literally, that is the exact same stuff that I'm saying all the time, because that's what it is. I've kind of boiled it down to sort of explanations like boundaries are all about responsibility. You taking responsibility for what is actually yours, AKA you, and letting go of all the stuff that's not your responsibility, which
Right.
is, like you said, right? What other people think, do, say, feel, whatever. And you hit the nail on the head where so many people are teaching boundaries and understanding boundaries as a really from the energy of trying to control other people. And it's like,
Mhm.
no, this is about me having a standard of what I will and will not allow in my bubble. But
Mhm.
we need to follow our own boundaries. Like you said, when you used to be the yes man, right? Like just yesing everything. Now,
Mhm.
for you to be empowered to say, no, that's not aligned for me.
Mhm.
No, this is what I'm doing to follow through, because it's really self parenting.
It is. It is. And the great part about it is that when you start deciding what your boundaries are and you start following your own rules, that builds your own confidence.
Mm-hmm.
That creates that security factor that you can handle yourself. I think that some people also need to understand that we don't really see the other people who are not following our boundaries as being respectful. But there is a reason. Some people don't like if I have somebody who's texting me all the time or calling me all the time, and just even if I'm not available, the idea is it's not that I am going to break my boundaries, but they're probably coming from a place from insecurity or questioning, and that's why they're trying to get you for some reason to get back to them when they know that that's not what's going to happen that day. It's like a reassurance for them that they're important. Just because we don't get back to you doesn't mean that you are not important. Whether it's a partner or a spouse or a family member or a client, that's not the case. We still have to abide by those rules. I respect other people's boundaries because I don't feel the need to have somebody reaffirm what I feel about myself or what I'm doing or my project. So I don't break other people's boundaries because I don't need to,
Mhm.
you know?
It is definitely a shift out of being needy, right?
Mhm,
Or again, the external condition. I don't
mhm,
need that external validation of somebody getting back to me right away, because of shifting the relationship with myself to where I'm good with me.
mhm,
And hold being able to hold to those boundaries, because it's not my ego or some sort of inflating self-importance, or like you said, the reassurance,
mhm,
because I need something from somebody else. And so it really is all about that inner work to be able to hold to and respect your own boundaries, and also
mhm.
being confident enough to, here's the caveat for everyone, confident enough to have a consequence when someone does not respect your boundaries.
Mhm,
Even what is the consequence for ourselves? And of course, consequence for myself is not a negative cycle. It's about me leaning in and saying, oh, here's the lesson. Here's what I see. Here's what I need to do to shift that so
mhm.
I can be more consistent in holding to my boundaries. But how do you handle the other people in your lives when they don't respect your boundaries?
I ignore. I just wait. I no, honestly, I still follow my boundaries, although there have been, um, over the years in different situations, I've had to sit down and tell people, listen, this is how my day goes. It's kind of like you have a triangle, right? And you imagine yourself at the center of your triangle. And let's say that the 3 points represent the three most important things. You have family and friends. Then one of the other points is your work. And one of the other points is your health. Those are really the three most important things in life. And to stay balanced, you have to stay in the middle of that triangle. But we often see, and we've all done it, I've done it too, it's, especially when I get very busy. I tend to do this, but I snap out of it. You start going towards one of the points more than the others. So that's when your happiness starts to kind of fade out. And then if you have an external person trying to break you out of all those boundaries, we've all dated somebody or had a relationship with somebody where you're now skipping the gym to stay at home with them, or allowing phone calls in the middle of the night, even though you have to sleep for a big presentation the next day. And we allow it. But the
Mhm.
thing is, we don't have to. And I think that's when people start to get unhappy, but then they start to actually get frustrated. And the only person you could be frustrated at is yourself. I get
Mhm.
frustrated when I skip my workouts. And then I realize for 2 days straight, I've been doing nothing but work. And then I kind of have to flip the tide and go back to my normal schedule. I think having a schedule, I think being structured is very important with allowing certain flexibility for certain things. Like you have clients, Stacey, that are, in all parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I work with people in all parts of the world. I tend not to do any work at night because when it gets dark, which now is at like 4:30, my mind is off. It's done. Like my day, I went to sleep the other night at 5:00. I'm like ready for the early bird special. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, you are going to be 44. It's time.
Oh yeah. But I also wake up at 3:00 in the morning or 4:00 in the morning to go through my routine. But there are people out there that are still trying to send me text messages or call or shoot me emails. And it could be friends and family. It could be clients. It could be anything that are trying to take me away from my schedule. And I think one of the smartest things that people should do is take their cell phone and put it in a different room.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have gotten to the point where now my boundary is I check my cell phone unless I'm doing something like this where we had to communicate previously. I am now putting my cell phone in a different room, except for 3 times during the day. That's it.
Nice.
So you can call me all you want. I'm not going to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
It's on vibrate. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a boundary that I now have to set for myself, because if I have somebody calling me while I'm working out or in the shower or trying to record something or working with another client, I can't have that disruption. And I think having those boundaries set is a way for you to keep, especially now that many of us are working from home or setting up their own businesses from home, they're going to have those external distractions. So you have to set those boundaries and that routine in place and follow it for yourself. And if you don't, you will eventually feel bad that you didn't get stuff done. And then you're going to try and play catch up. And then it's going to be like that hamster wheel that nobody likes to be on, because then you just get depressed and stressed out and then you don't sleep well. And it sucks because I've been there. Mm-hmm. I was there all last week watching MSNBC for 24/7, 4 days in a row.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yes, absolutely. And that's what it is, right? I mean, for productivity, mm-hmm. for focus, for all the things that I hear the amazing women in my world struggling with, they're like, oh, I can't maintain focus. I'm kind of feeling the overwhelm or the burnout of juggling all the things. And I'm like, okay, A, you need boundaries. B, making sure that a good portion of that is about time invested in you to fill the cup, which makes you focused and productive and energized and all those things, which is huge, 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 huge. Mm-hmm. So we have got some amazing comments coming in, and Amy asked or just commented, she's like, yes, always hard to be firm in telling others my expected boundaries.
I'll just tell them the truth. Yeah. I mean, seriously, I'm over the fact that, and I'm sure you've been here, Stacey, too, mm-hmm. that you don't always have to be nice. Nice and honest do not necessarily go together. I used to tell my students that all the time. You can't be nice and honest at the same time. Sometimes you can. You can cater it depending on who you're speaking with. But you just say it matter-of-factly. Mm-hmm. You know I do this at this time. I really can't have you calling. And if you keep calling, I'm just not going to answer during that time. So I'm just letting you know, not ignoring you, but I kind of am. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no reason why we can't have those open, honest conversations as adults. Now, I know you have to be a little easy if it's like you're dealing with your kids, especially younger kids. But when you're dealing with adults, they can take it. Adults can handle it. And if they can't handle it, that's on them.
Yeah. Well, and I think that you really brought that is doing it in a very calm way. Mm-hmm. You know, I think so many of us, and this is what I've seen, is when we really start putting energy and effort into holding to our boundaries, when we have struggled with it in the past, it's easy for us to go very all or nothing. Uh-huh. And be a little harsh, because we're bringing a lifetime of emotional baggage behind holding to the boundary of not holding to our boundaries. So it can come across pretty shitty. and we don't mean to, you know what I mean? So stepping into that place is why, having other methods of like emotional release, whether that's techniques or exercise or things to calm down, but to be able to just do it in a very mature way, like it's business. My time, whether I'm dealing with my husband or my clients, it doesn't matter. My time is a business. And, I've got to approach it that way.
How's that working for you?
Really good, because it works really, really good.
I could never focus on my relationship as a business.
No, just the time. My time, not my relationship. No. I'm not treating my marriage like a business.
There are certain things that are not supposed to be transactional.
No.
unless like it's like your second or third marriage, then, that's when you don't marry for love anymore. You marry for something else.
Yes. Oh, good. That's so funny. Yeah. Amy's like, yeah, I do keep the art of the chill. Good. Well, and I think it's important too, is we don't always have to communicate our boundaries ahead of time. We just need to be clear on them for ourselves, whether it's within our relationship with ourselves or with other people, but that we've got that clarity to know, okay, here's where the boundary is. We can feel someone pushing it. Now's my opportunity to communicate either, hey, just a heads up, here's where you're pushing my boundary, or, hey, whoa, not cool. Here's the consequence for like, this is super not cool. Like, and then knowing the consequence of that crossing of the boundary. Because if we don't have clarity on the consequence, it's huge. And it just requires a response, not a reaction. And sometimes the response is just walking away till you cool down.
It's kind of like if you don't allow yourself to follow the boundaries that you set, you're actually enabling other people. And we hear enablement in so many various forms, but you really are, because you're allowing people to step into your time that you need. And you can ward it off at the pass. I mean, there was about 2 weeks ago, I very rarely get sick, but I was sick. I mean, I was down on the couch and I texted my clients. I said, listen, I am down for the count. I'm taking a few days. Like, I'm not even getting off the couch. Please do not call me. Please do not text me. Please do not send an email to me. And that was it. So they already knew not to do that. And even if they did, they already knew to expect that I was not going to get back to them. So there are times where you could actually set that in line before it even happens. Now, you're still going to have people who do it, but you've already set that line and you've set that boundary. Okay, I'm going to rest for 3 days. I'm not looking at my email. So now it's your turn to follow your own rules.
Exactly. And one of the best ways that I learned to follow my own rules, just like you mentioned, have the phone in the other room, but also those apps that set that time for your do not disturb to come on. You cannot access things. Huge. So huge.
I don't know if I could do that. I mean, that's a little bit too much of a handcuff situation.
It just reminds you. It doesn't remove access altogether. It just reminds you, hey, these are off time hours.
I'm fortunate that I am a very big control person. And so fortunately I can utilize that strength. Like, I love being in control of pretty much everything. So I can utilize that and push things aside.
That's awesome.
But a lot of people are, well, I don't know. I mean, some people don't think so, but sorry. It's just how it is. I own it. And you know what? It works well for me. And that's it. I don't like being out of control. I like having everything controlled.
Well, I mean, that's the quintessential alpha energy, right? And but the difference is where people get stuck in that negative idea of what it means to be an alpha woman or an alpha leader is controlling everyone else. Yeah. And the ascension into self-mastery, which is that divine feminine alpha, that influential alpha leader, is that you're focusing on control, but it's self-control, self-mastery, and then radiating outwards to lead by example. And so
I love how you say that, because you're talking about the alpha women, and if you look at the male dominated society, that's exactly, they are trying to control other people. They're trying to control the situations, the experiences, everything. And I guess that works for them, but it doesn't allow everybody else to control themselves, which I think everybody really should have.
Mhm.
You know, you have bosses that try to control their workers, and there's no reason for it except for an ego trip. That's all it is. There's a difference between that and, like you said, controlling your own life and having that alpha quality of control. Being in control means knowing yourself that well, knowing how you're going to make decisions, not necessarily bringing emotions into decisions, and being able to handle any situation calmly. That's what control is. Control isn't power, it's confidence.
Mhm.
So I love that you do this type of show, and you have the people who are watching, because I think that's fundamental. And you do, you know, you are an exemplary person for that. See, now I feel like see, look, I'm a control freak. I switch the tides on the hot seat chair, but you do.
It's
You,
okay. I'm allowing it to happen.
you, see, that's me being in control. You see, but no, but it is. Control allows you to know who you are, know what you want, and do everything with that confidence and that calmness that is meant for leaders. And if you're a woman in business, then you are expected to lead, not to control others, but to lead through the control that you have with yourself.
Absolutely. Boom, mic drop moment right there.
I'm not going to drop my mic.
No, me neither.
I need my equipment.
Yeah, you do. But that's exactly it, right? That is true influential leadership. And obviously, regardless of gender, influential leadership is going from that place of trying to control others and then being in such self-control and self-mastery that you elevate and inspire others to step up into their own genius, their confidence, their capability. And it's also leading with emotion, with empathy, not closing off that part of ourselves either, you know, bringing all of it in balance into our leadership. And you said it perfectly. Are we choosing to enable with how we hold to our boundaries or not hold to our boundaries or not have awareness, you know, enable ourselves or enable others, or the flip side, which is empower. Holding to my boundaries empowers me and others. Because
Absolutely.
if I jump in to fix it or rescue, I'm going to be talking a lot more about this in my community, in the Divine Femme Alpha community, but that rescuer fixer energy is control. I'm trying to control the outcomes or control other people.
I used to be like that. I had the savior complex. That's I wanted to be likable, and I had the savior complex.
Save everyone.
Yeah. Yes. Well, you know what? I don't got time.
I ain't got time for that shit.
I ain't got time for that.
I ain't got time for that shit. But absolutely, that when we do that, it's actually enabling others to not step into their power. And when we're rescuing or fixing the situation, what I've distilled it down to through some of my own work, especially recently, was understanding that was part of my addiction. Because obviously addiction is whatever we're using to self-soothe to avoid some emotion that we're going through, right? Avoid ourselves. So the addiction was, if I'm rescuing or fixing the situation, what I'm avoiding is sitting in my own discomfort, because that's what we've got, right? We've got discomfort with a situation. Well, I don't like being uncomfortable, so let me fix it. And now is about being in that self-mastery of understanding, not my circus, not my monkeys. And it's okay. I'm
not jumping into that clown car. That's
no, but that it's okay to feel discomfort, right? Because we've spent a lifetime and knowing that I have solid boundaries, it's okay for me to feel safe in feeling the negative emotions. Like, ooh, I don't like this. And that's okay.
I'm like, I don't like this. I'm going to go mow the lawn for a while, and I'm just going to avoid for a little bit and clear my head, and then I'll come back to it and probably still just say, no, not my thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, Amy's got a great question, specifically with your boundaries with your schedule. So do you create a power hour and only check in later for their responses? And how do you work with these checking in only 3 times a day with the phone?
Wow. Well, I mean, okay, so my schedule is, and you would probably appreciate this being a vet, because I'm sure in the military they had you, you know, but I have an extreme routine. I mean, I know what I'm doing at that time, and I don't even have to look at a clock, and I can tell you what time it is.
Mhm.
I know if I'm pouring my second cup of coffee, it's exactly 4:56 in the morning. Like that's how regimented I am. And I have to be like that because it also helps my needy ass dog.
Mhm.
Because if I'm not on schedule, then he's nuts. And then I have, then my whole day is off. So when it comes to like, I do an hour of power as far as allowing myself to know the most important things that I need to take care of the next day, or the things that I least want to work on. So I know to do those first to get them out of the way. And that's probably one of the hardest things. Like if I look at my workout, I hate doing pull-ups. And I do like 100 pull-ups at a time. And I hate them, but I have to, or burpees. And I hate them, but I have to do them first or else they are not getting done. So the same thing works kind of with business. If I know, and again, sometimes I have to be flexible because some people are on different time zones or in different countries where you kind of have to shift things. But I mean, I make sure that in the morning, before I even sit down at my computer at 9 o'clock, I make sure that I do the things that are important to me. I do my workout. Nacho and I go for a run. I meditate. I have my coffee. I make a nice breakfast. I make sure I shower and prep myself. I think one of the biggest problems is that people working from home now are getting so used to, oh, I'm just going to like, go to work in my pajamas. And I can't do that. I have to be, even if it's a t-shirt and ripped jeans, I still have to be like showered and dressed and looking good just to be in that mind space. I will check my email first thing in the morning. Do I necessarily have to respond? No. If I know it's a time difference where they are ahead of me and they're coming to the end of their day, I will respond at that time. Otherwise, I usually respond, in my midday check around noon, right before I'm stopping because I allow myself an hour for lunch with Mr. Nacho and to catch up on the news because I'm nuts. Especially right now, I have Supreme Court hearings I want to watch. And, but then at 1 o'clock, I go back, and at 4 o'clock at the end of the day, I check my emails again. I'm not going to, and I think that's whether you work in an office or work for a company or work for yourself. I think one of the hardest things is email or text, because for some reason, because those messages come in and they're instantaneous and digital and online, everything is so quick. We feel the need that if we don't respond right away, we're not going to get our client, or we're going to piss them off, or our boss is going to fire us. Number one, never worry about your boss firing you. Ever. Life is too short to work for somebody that is going to fire you over not responding to an email in 10 minutes. I used to not even show up at the principal's office. I would sit there and wait till the end of the day when he finally walked down to mine. Now call that a control power trip. That was all me. But seriously, I think it works well, because what happens is you can get lost. And I know people who can't check their email in the morning, because what they'll do is they'll end up spending their whole day replying to emails and not getting other stuff done. And so I think that's probably one of the reasons why scheduling that email check, that text message check, putting the phone away for the rest of the day kind of takes that distraction away and allows you to concentrate on the major things that you need to get done, the major actions that you need to do to keep achieving the success that you want. Because these things, honest to God, if we threw away our cell phones, or we took like 10 hours a day without our cell phone, just imagine how much you would have accomplished in a day. Because we are attached to these. Mm-hmm. Because that's their focus. Social media especially, that's their focus. And yes, we all use social media to market and do shows like this. But social media, their job is to keep you on their site, because they compete with each other, to keep you on their site as long as possible. That is their job. That is what social media is for. They drag you in. So, and we all do it. It could be Pinterest and wanting to all of a sudden reorganize your kitchen when you should be writing a proposal. I've done it.
Yep.
I picked out new paint colors for my bedroom the other day because I didn't feel like getting the work done that I needed to get done. I was distracted. So it happens. Mm-hmm. But then you got to rein it in.
Well, and I think also giving yourself the breaks. I noticed that is one of those big things. I'm really productive when I use a Pomodoro timer. and get those dings to just step away for like 5 minutes. Just give myself that break. Otherwise, it's way too easy to get sucked into the rabbit hole. And then obviously your inner rebel's like, ding, 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 knock, knock. Let's look at paint.
I call it the egg timer, but I can't use them because it reminds me of all the test taking that we used to do in school.
Yeah.
and I don't like that feeling because then I get stressed out, but I work very well under pressure. I was one of those that I would write like a 10-page paper the night before because I need that stress. I need that deadline to really get my ass into gear. But unfortunately, can be a bad trait because it allows me to kind of slack off a little bit sometimes. So that's where I have to set my boundaries, but I can't use those timers. They freak me out because then I just sit there and look out. It must be a teacher thing. I used to look at the clock and then I would stare out the window at the nice day and say, God, 20 more minutes. Why am I still here? The kids aren't paying attention. Why am I still here?
Yeah.
So, and you wait for that ding. I was out the door before the kids were. I was out the door before the ding.
Oh, that's funny.
Yep.
Well, yeah. And just finding what works for you. Because some people it's putting it in your planner. Some, like your Google planner or whatever. Sometimes it's paper planner. Sometimes it is using one of those apps, those timer apps or something like that.
I have a big whiteboard.
Nice.
Big whiteboard and lots of Post-it notes all over my wall.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's for me. Like, I don't do email most of the time till the end of the day. For the most part, is just like, that's the last thing at the end of the day. Is like my last hour is like, okay, let's go into email. Just, it's not my primary method of communication with people. So I don't really worry about it too much. But for me, it's like, Facebook Messenger, Voxer, things like that. Those are the ones where it's like I have set times during the day for the most part, with some variability, but for them, that's when I respond to it. I turned off notifications. So I go to them when it's within my scheduled time to go to those things.
I think people have to realize that their time is important. And I think we forget that because we do want to build good businesses. We do want to have this great rapport and build these relationships. So we want to overstretch our bounds for our clients, for our family, for our partners. And we forget to realize that our time is valuable. I mean, that's all you have in life, and it's not even guaranteed. And one of the things that they used to say about men in business is that they would sit on the phone. And this happens with politicians. I think Barack Obama used to get through this. And you get them on the phone, and whoever picks up the phone first, like gets off of hold and picks up the phone first between like world leaders, is the lower on the totem pole. So Obama could just sit there and wait and wait and wait. Especially when it was somebody like, Putin or somebody. He would just wait it out, play some solitaire, do something, wait it out. Because his time was also valuable. So he wanted to show that it's going to be on his time that he has this phone call. And I think that women especially are so afraid of those minute things that do elicit a sense of control and power, because there are so many negative connotations to that word, especially when dealing with women. It's kind of like the word, you can't be assertive or else you're a bitch, but a guy is assertive. A guy could be aggressive, but a woman can't.
Confident.
A guy could be angry, but for a woman, it's emotional or crazy. I mean, so I think because we've all been raised in a society over all these years where there have been this conflict of meaning for words between the sexes or between the genders, I think that has really been a holdback point for many women finally getting out that alpha spirit.
Oh, absolutely. That is why I just really focus on that. And it's funny too, how many women come into my world who don't initially identify as alpha, but the second I say you've been called intimidating, they're like, oh yeah. But regardless, it's about tapping into that internal passion, fire, power, potential, confidence to be the leader your business, your brand, your message, your mission need you to be. You got to be, like you said, you got to be that leader for your business. But, I see this a lot too, especially with women when they're in a business that they love, right? Where it
Mhm.
doesn't feel like work. It's so easy
Let me
to
do everything for everybody.
overgive, overshare, overdo it, and not hold to those boundaries, especially, and I will fully own this, that in the early days of my my business felt better than my marriage. So it was
Wow.
easy for me to hide in my business and get my needs met because
Mhm.
this feels good,
Mhm.
rather than go home and maybe have those tough conversations.
Right. Now, see, there was a time where my show started. I kind of started paying less attention to it, and it wasn't because anything else was overtaking my boundaries or that it wasn't my passion, but there was something missing from it. And I had to take that time to figure it out. And I realized, because I'm such a creative person, that I had to step up my game. That's when I started doing, like, video broadcasting and kind of stepping the show up so it made it enjoyable again. It's kind of like in 25 years of the Oprah Winfrey Show, you noticed almost every year or every couple of years towards the end, it kind of changed. Either the music changed in the intro or what she was talking about changed, because it was evolving as she was evolving.
Mhm.
And I was stuck in a situation where I didn't have an idea of how I wanted the show to evolve. So I needed to take that time to kind of figure it out. And then when I did, I came running out the gate.
Boom.
Yeah, again, I can't help myself. That is my one goal when it comes to whether it's my business or the actual show production or even the network or even working with other people. It's always to up their game. So, for example, if I have somebody because I do handle, like, the actual physical book publishing, that is not my favorite part. Actually, it is probably my least favorite, because editing can be a bitch and it's very tedious at times. Actually, that is my least favorite part of my business. I would rather concentrate on audiobooks, but I know that the reason why I do it is because once that happens, and you know this because you're working on your audiobook, not with me.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. You didn't know.
I didn't. I knew
I'm hard to keep up with, Stacey.
I
I am
know.
hard
You're
to keep
always
up with.
adding stuff.
Yeah. But but I know that the reason why I decided to also work with that base is not only because I'm a 2-time best-selling author, I did it all myself, so I know how to do it, but because they will evolve into something like an audiobook. So that's helping them step up their game. So I always need that factor as far as business is concerned. I like to be stepping up my game. Not necessarily to impress everybody, but for me, I need that creative outlet.
Mhm. Well, and I think that is such a beautiful reflection of each of our own evolution. Our
Mhm,
relationship with our business
mhm,
evolves just like the rest of our boundaries and our relationships. So for
mhm,
myself, right? Everybody's seeing me now and they're like, "Oh my God, you're blowing up." And I'm like, "No, my business is just a reflection of all of this inner work that I'm doing." I'm
mhm,
sitting full ass on my throne as Alpha Queen Goddess Stacy, just bam, ruling my empire, and the reflection of that is then calling in all the stuff. But I've allowed my business, my
mhm,
message, all the things that I do to, like you said, up level,
mhm,
to reflect how I've shifted the relationship with myself, the relationship with my business, the
mhm.
relationship with the bigger vision,
Right. Of
right?
course.
'Cause
And
it's
how do you see, and because I've gone through this, and I try and um, talk about this with my clients as well, but many people, they want to have it all. Now, you see me, I have all these different things going on, but they all actually go together.
Mhm.
Because I work with nonfiction, I could publish their books, I could do their audiobooks, I can do virtual events or launches or, any of that other stuff. Plus I podcast, and a lot of those authors eventually want to have a podcast. So all of my moving pieces actually fit together in a nice spread. Not all podcasters are authors, not all authors are podcasters. There are some organizations, because of what I represent and the organizations and communities I work with, have me do their virtual events. So but they all have that one tie-in. It's all audio visual representation. That's what it is. So I take those skills, but at the beginning, I did live radio. Actually, at the beginning, I wrote my first book and then was asked to continue on live radio, here in Philadelphia at a station. And then it went into podcasting. But it's kind of like, people have to remember, as much as you want a lot of things, and especially those creative business minds want to have every conglomerate, you have to start with one niche. And that's a boundary that's really hard not to break, because once you start one thing, once you start doing something, then all of a sudden you get all these other ideas and you want it to happen right now. But that's where that control factor comes in. That's where that boundary comes in. Okay, I'm going to work at this until I know that I have succeeded and made this exactly the way that I want it. And then I will add in this. And then I will add in that piece once that thing is done, and really just take it one step at a time. Because I don't think a lot of people like you do this as well. And you're wonderful at this. When I first met you, your book came out. Fire That Bitch. Best title of a book ever, by the way, in my opinion.
Thank you.
But you started with that. And then all of a sudden I started seeing some other things that you did. And now all of a sudden I start seeing you on Facebook Live. And now you're doing your audiobook. And now you're hopefully going to get ready to podcast. And so you have taken your time and you've done every piece separately, but in a continuous motion, which is the way it should be done.
Yeah, and it was adding everything on while maintaining the balance and the boundaries, and not forcing and efforting and having to do it all right now. It was making sure I'm being in integrity with myself, and then allowing the next layers of success and exposure and all the things to just unfold naturally without,
and that's hard. That's hard. I am one of those instantaneous gratification people. I'm a control freak and I like instantaneous gratification. Like, this sets me up in a really, really bad position. But that is the type of person that I am. And I know that. So I do, I have meetings with, the consultant that helps me grow my business. And so there are certain times where it's like, okay, am I doing this too quickly? Like, sometimes I need to have somebody else slow my roll down for a second. And that's very hard for me to do. So you, on the other hand, are wonderful with like letting it just unfold naturally. I am like, I got this idea in my head. Let's rock and roll, because I already know how to make other things grow. So I'm like, I got this. I have a confidence problem, Stacy. I have a huge confidence problem. Big.
What would you call a confidence problem?
I have too much of it. But you know what? That's why, like I said, I have my destroy the box shirt on, and people, even though you have to find your niche, I think people get stuck because they think they already have a title, so like that's what they are, and so they really need to focus on this field because that's what they do, or that's what they've always done. Destroy that box. You can do anything. You can do several different things. I mean, if you look at most of the millionaires out there, or most of the wealthy, guess what? They have several different businesses. Why?
Russell Branson.
Seriously, you have so many different things. There's no way that you should stick yourself in a box. Plus, we have different interests, and those interests change over time. So why not foster that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you immensely. Well, and Amy shared a great comment too, where over giving in her business is also because she's home alone. I think, from what I recall, hubby is deployed right now, so just bored, right? And again, that was one of those things for myself, just overdoing it and staying too busy, because boredom is a massive discomfort for me.
Really?
Being that alpha woman, I'm like always in a state of motion, and boredom was something that I always found myself avoiding, and that some of the avoidance was I was a big emotional eater, or boredom snacker. That was a big one. It was just something to do, busy. But it was really avoiding that time and that space and that connection with myself.
Yeah. See, I have no problem being bored. Yeah. I mean, I'm never bored. My head always goes, but like, I'm one of those, like, there are times where I rush things and have to be busy. It's very rare, but I can putz, it's kind of like, all right, I can get this done, and I just do it, and I'm slow, and I have music playing, and I'm like, okay, now I can wash the dishes. Oh, I just saw this t-shirt on the floor. Let me, put it back in the drawer, whatever. And I can be so like kind of rhythmic with an ebb and flow that I don't feel. Now, that does not mean that when I'm coming to a deadline that I'm not rushing. I am. But for the most part, I used to be a very busy person, but in the past, obviously 8 months, I have really learned to enjoy, like, sit outside and call my mother. For some people, that's not a joy. For me, it's actually a joy. But that's what it is. It's kind of like sit outside and watch my dog roll around in the grass for a couple minutes. And as we get older, there are so many things that we lose sight of because we're in that work mind. And especially like having to be busy and having to work. Well, how much are you focusing on the other points in that triangle? The family and friends, the workout, the eating healthy, whatever you have to do for those other boundaries to have that complete happiness. So like I go through things that I need to get done personally for myself that there's a boundary there. It will be done. My workout, my meditation, my dog. Like that is a morning thing. Some motivation also. And then, I take time to read or to learn something every day, whether it's learning new things about finance, whether it's learning new things about, I don't know, politics or something that I love. Then there's always like, I take an hour and I have plenty of hobbies. So I make sure I do that. So now I'm creating a balance that ensures that every day I have a happy and joyful day. And the only way for me to do that is to make sure that I take the time for those other things that I find joy out of. So it's not just work, 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 because for years I did it with the show. I do it with the network. I do it for my clients where it gets to a point where it's work, work, work. And then I feel awful. And that's the biggest boundary that I set for myself. I never want to feel depressed. I never want to feel angry. I never want to feel awful. So if you know the things throughout the day that you can even if it's 10 minutes, take time for, just to kind of keep you at that mainstay of the boundary. Okay, work's important, family's important, health's important, but the important point is that I'm happy and I'm joyful. I mean, that's why people start running their own businesses, right? They want to be happy. They want to live out their passion. So why not run your day from a place where you could set boundaries to allow yourself time, where you're not always rushing around thinking about, I need the next client, I need the next paycheck, and say, you know what, I want to feel happy today. And schedule your day around that.
It calls in everything that you desire when you're in that beautiful balance, that ebb and flow. I love how you've embraced the feminine flow to balance out the hustle. And
very rare that you see that out of me.
Yeah, but to kind of be able to back down. And yeah, I mean, even the fact that I do that now is totally brand new. And that is what has happened in 2020, is really shifting into that ease, that flow, that allowing energy, as much as it is very focused, targeted, aligned action. Balance, all of it. But it's really about how I'm showing up, who I am being, and that unlocked everything, and eliminating, because I swear like 90% of our hustle is just making things harder. It's just busyness, or, like what I call the prep purgatory. It's stuff that we do not need to be doing. It's just action for the sake of filling our time, because we have a habit of just avoiding being with ourselves, being present and watching the dog and having a good time and having that connection. And
absolutely. If I could automate my entire business, I would.
Yeah.
I don't believe in like funnels and click funnels and all that shit. But like if I could automate everything minus the audio production or video production, like if I could automate every other thing, sales, marketing, everything, dealing with books, editing processes. If I could automate everything and have that extra time in my day to enjoy sitting outside with the grill, I'd fucking do it.
Hell yeah.
I would.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing.
I like spending time with myself. But a lot of people say that they want things to run perfectly like a machine, even when they're sleeping. This is where that funnel, click funnel crap came in, which I don't like, because then it's so impersonal. But it is a smart idea. If there was a way to make something like that personal action, if I could have a robot clone of myself, I would buy 1 million of those and place them around the world, and I think the world would be a happier place.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would be happier.
Yes, more joy in the world and helping other people share their message and their impact. Oh, Jess, today has been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And just, we always have such amazing dynamic conversations. We should probably always record them and just share them.
Seriously, we do. We do. And we don't even get to talk that often, but when we do, it's like we kind of pick up right where we left off. And that's it's always so wonderful to have you on the other line. And again, thank you for having me in the hot seat this time, even though I kind of switched it around. I can't help it. It's, an occupational hazard.
But it's that beautiful ebb and flow. We're just playing tennis,
That's it.
Back and forth.
I suck at tennis.
Conversational tennis. But that's what it is. And again, that is the sign of true alpha leadership, that both of us are in this energy of holding our own space, power, and confidence, but elevating the other. No, there's nothing but the co-creation, like 1 + 1 = 5 in these situations, right? Because it's so juicy. All right. What I'd like you to do is to close us out is let everybody know where they can find you online if they want to learn more about you, your services, and all the things. And of course, what is your closing final thoughts?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, everybody can, you can find my show, Drinks with Jess, all over pretty much every platform, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, where you can actually watch us on YouTube as well. For information about what we do, and we're still now re-updating the website to extend it to all the virtual stuff that we've been doing due to COVID, you can go on to branasenterprises.com. You can also find a link there to the Be the Voice podcast network, where we're actually reformulating some of the shows, and we're bringing on new shows in the next month. We were waiting till election time was over. And close out the show. Just destroy the box. Yeah. Destroy that. Listen.
Destroy the box.
Destroy the box. That's it. You don't just break out of it. You don't step outside the box. You don't think outside the box. Stacy knows me all too well that you just destroy the box.
Yeah, there's no box to go back in.
There's no box. There's no limitation. There's no border. Just
yes.
Hit it and quit it. Out and out.
Love it. Love it. Oh, everybody's like, this was so good. Amy, you are so welcome. Lisa, you're welcome too. And everybody else who catches us live or on the replay, you are very welcome. Of course, you had such a great time. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jess. This has been a power hour.
Yes.
I didn't realize it was an hour. We were just in such a great conversation.
We always do. We always do. we really do. And for all the people who were watching and for your audience, thank you so much for tuning in, because you have a good leader right here. Oh, you do. You do. She's awesome. So,
Thank you. It has been an pleasure. And I'm certain we will be doing this again. And for those of you who are watching, stay tuned. We will be continue having amazing guests on the Alpha Leadership Live show. During the holidays, the schedule will get mixed up a little bit, but that's okay. And then we'll be coming in hot in 2021 with a podcast. So there it is. It's out in the public, dropping the teaser. So stay tuned for that epic awesomeness. All right. Have an amazing day. And for those of you who are here, remember, you are enough. Have a great day. Bye-bye.